When I got my first camera and started to learn photography, the idea of shooting raw photos sounded like something for experienced enthusiasts and professionals only. Eventually, though, I did feel like I was ready to start learning Lightroom and editing my own raw photos, and the rest is history. But now, I'd say I've seen the light, and I recommend that anyone getting started with photography that actually wants to learn the craft get introduced to Lightroom and the world of photo editing right away. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm Chris Hagan, a video producer and photographer, just trying to pay it forward with everything that I've learned and continue learning, and that's kind of a theme in today's video. Photography can absolutely be a guessing game when you get into it. You hear things about the exposure triangle and whether or not you should shoot in manual mode, and a whole lot of numbers and words that probably sound just like gibberish. Therefore, when you pick up a camera for the first time and start shooting, you'll inevitably come back with maybe less than stellar results because the little things like aperture and shutter speed and ISO that come together to make the image still don't make sense to you. And if you don't learn why these settings matter and how they can change your photos, the guessing game will only continue. Now, the all too simple answer is to point a new photographer toward a book. And I've done that before, and I'll link the one that I've actually gifted to friends before. But let's be real, that's really not the most fun way to learn. One of the best ways to learn can be through hands-on experience. So if you already own or have steady access to a camera, well, I highly suggest you start to take raw photos into Lightroom or Capture One or whatever photo editor can handle your images. At the time of recording this video, Lightroom costs less than you spend on coffee or a Netflix subscription in a month, and you can probably get a free trial. Anyway, getting into Lightroom should spark a few things to help expedite the learning process and really get you moving in your photography journey. One, it'll make you appreciate the art behind photo editing, something that's easy to take for granted when it's someone else editing the photos. It can get pretty deep and complex. Two, hopefully it shows you that you should stop comparing your first photos to the bangers you may see all over Instagram taken by pros or those with much more experience. A lot of those shots went through a considerable amount of post-production, and if you're not at that level yet, you really can't beat yourself up. But most important, getting into a photo editor like Lightroom will give you a clear look at how and why your photos look the way that they do. You'll be able to look at the three pieces of the exposure triangle: aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, and you'll start to understand better what photographers are talking about when they explain how each one can affect your image. This will help you get the desired background blur or crispy images that freeze motion or keep unwanted noise out of shots in certain situations. You can also learn to use tools like the histogram to see how your image is exposed. And if your camera has that feature, now you'll know how to read it as you're composing your shot on the go. I'd also encourage you to move every slider you see to learn how quickly your image can change. White balance, exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, blacks, whites. There's texture and clarity, sharpening, adding grain or vignetting, and a whole lot of changes you can make when it comes to color. See how affecting greens and yellows and oranges and reds may bring out skin tones more, or how blue you actually want that blue sky to be. And even better, especially in those early days, you may be able to save a few images that would have otherwise been completely unusable. Shooting raw opens up a lot of capability and flexibility when it comes to recovering details in your shadows and in your highlights. Details that are lost with the baked-in look of your JPEG sometimes. Then as you go between Lightroom and taking photos with your camera, maybe you learn to expose and compose your shots differently to get the desired results because you now know what you're looking for. And as a result, you're making fewer changes when editing in post. Maybe you even find a few presets that you like to use as starting points and really start to edit with a little more consistency. Or if you truly don't like the process of editing raw photos and can live with the colors that you're getting straight out of camera, at least you've learned enough to get your settings right in camera and just go with the JPEGs. But now they're quality photos taken with intention instead of spraying and praying and hoping that you come back with something good enough. My point is, it's much easier to learn photography when you can see the entire process from start to finish and how everything works. And when you know how or why your camera is making your images look the way that they do. I do hope this helps. As you can see from some of the examples in this video, I've started shooting on Fujifilm in addition to my Sony cameras. And even as good as those Fuji JPEGs can be coming straight out of camera, I still like to have the RAWs to edit sometimes. We'll talk more about that in an upcoming video with my first impressions of the Fujifilm X100 VI. Until then, all I ask is you keep supporting the channel and showing love. Get subscribed, like this video if it helped, and I'll see you in the next one.